Abracadabra. Most people think of that as something to do with a magic wand, but the original meaning points to something much deeper. I create as I speak. And that's what we're going to talk about today on Driven for Health. I'm joined by Pat Smith. Pat works with driven men who look successful on the outside, yet feel maxed out on the inside. His work focuses on mindset, language, nervous system regulation, and stories that men repeat themselves without even realizing it. And that's something that I see in my everyday life working with guys too. And this is important because men's health is the words that you use, the what you look at in the mirror. These all shape the decisions that you make every single day. It stress changes your food, your activity, if you stay up late and binge eat and whatever. These are things that are actual real challenges. So today we're going to talk about language, capacity, some emotional regulation, and making small shifts, the words that you use, and to make you actually make better choices and live a better life. And we're going to do a fun little experience here as well. So, Pat, welcome to Driven for Health. What's one big takeaway you want the guys to have here from our conversation?
Yeah, thanks a ton for having me. Biggest takeaway is I want you to think about your life. Our lives are stories. Stories are made up of words. If we want our life to change, we want our story to change, it's up to us to change our words because our words create our mindset and our mindset is involved in every single thing that we do. So when we can work on that, just by osmosis, everything becomes better.
Yes, abracadabra. We speak and it becomes.
Correct.
I even have a real quick example of this guy's been in the Culturize program. It's my 100-day fat loss challenge. Joe is his name. He's doing really well. He's down 20 some pounds. Still got a little bit more time to go,
Nice.
but he's going away to Tennessee for the 4th of July thing. And he's really concerned, as most people are. When I travel, I gain weight. That's the story that ends up going on with a lot of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because their choices, they just break down. They get into a different atmosphere, different environment, and all of a sudden, what they weren't doing at home on a normal day-to-day routine is completely upended. Then they get into this real life situation that happens quite regularly throughout your life, that you go places and do things with people around food and try and have fun and all, but then they come back with 5 extra pounds on their belly and they didn't need to, because food doesn't need, or overeating doesn't have to be in the equation to have fun. We have relationship and entertainment and all these things, especially around the 4th, that we want to acknowledge and have a good time. And so that this is going to be really cool. He actually came into the program because of the podcast. So he's going to listen to this and be like, he's calling me out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a healthy call out though, which is
It
great in
so
coaching.
is. Yeah. Let's
And
go
it's
back to some of your beginnings and what even got you interested in mindset and health and taking care of yourself.
Yeah. I mean, we can go back a few decades when it comes to just health in general. I grew up in Northwest Indiana, Elkhart, Indiana, smaller town. When I was like 10 or 12, my dad always used to take me with him to the gym. For the longest
That's
time, I would
awesome.
just go shoot hoops in the gym. But I would always see the guys who I felt like for lack of a better word terms, looked up to. They were strong, they looked like they were masculine, and they were
Yeah.
always in the weight room. How could I get in there? And so, sure enough, they allowed for kids that weren't 18 to go in there with the chaperone as long as your parents were in the weight room. But you had to have this little yellow laminate card that said you went through with one of the trainers, and you went through all the machines and you learned how to do the machines. And you got a little clipboard that was basically just an Excel sheet printed out for sets and reps and weight. And you could put the date in every machine. Yes. No free weights, no barbells, only the machines for safety reasons, of course. And that in itself was one of the staples. And I've carried that all the way until multiple decades later here, where physical health has always been just part of it. And of course, I played sports as well. So I think just the discipline and just understanding what it's like to just go in and, there's delayed gratification that comes with it. So that's part of it, of course. Flash forward to about 2016 is when I hit, what I would say more of a rock bottom after a family tragedy. And as a result, I realized that physical health because of what had happened and how I was beginning to feel, physical health was just one piece to the puzzle. There was
Yeah.
also my mental and emotional health that I had been bypassing with drugs and alcohol for nearly a decade before that.
Yeah. And
And when I hit rock,
unfortunately, real quick on that is
yeah,
our society is set up for addiction
oh yeah,
for real because of marketing, capitalism,
hmm,
this device thing that we hold in our hand.
sure,
An addictive drug in a
yeah,
sense. So it's very easy to check out and not
hmm,
be, say, self responsible to taking care of yourself or the way you think, especially. You just do
hmm,
with whatever shows up in front of you next on the screen. I mean, like, why
exactly. And
wouldn't you?
I mean, I've talked with my coach and even therapists and all these things before. And if I think back to the actions that I used to take when I was from 14 to 24, it was everything that I saw or heard. Rap music, rap videos on TRL. I mean,
Yeah,
you name it, right?
MTV, Total Request Live. Yeah.
Drugs, money, you know what the other word is afterwards, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, but those were all just escaping for me to be able to feel myself,
Right.
what I felt. And so when I hit rock bottom and was dealing with this tragedy, grief, loss, I didn't know how to deal with pain. I had escaped it. I went to do the things that I normally did, but I realized at some point that I was always looking for an external solution for really a true internal struggle. It was like, band-aid on a bullet hole type situation. It worked for a little
Right.
bit, but then the band-aid came off and I had to put another band-aid on. But that is
Right.
only sustainable for so long. So 2016, I got to that point and I realized, okay, what would it take? How do I get over some of this pain, this anxiety, the things that I was dealing with? And I stumbled across meditation,
Yeah.
not knowing anything about it, thinking it's woo woo. But you know what?
Yeah,
I would go to the gym
guys,
every
it's
morning.
more than just woo, okay? Just gonna
Sure,
throw that out there. Meditation can be very powerful and it has a lot of different forms, which Pat's
sure.
gonna jump into.
Yeah, I mean, lots of science behind it, but at the time,
Yep.
I just knew it was a space for me to slow down and actually be
Right.
able to sit with myself instead
Slow
of escape.
down.
So I would remember I'm start in with 2 minutes. I would go to the gym early in the morning, and when I leave, I'd sit in the sauna for 2 minutes and put a guided meditation on that was 2 minutes. I mean, felt like an eternity. Over time, that grew. All that
Right.
to be said, that was like the really initial start of my true personal growth journey as an adult. And this was around, I think I was 23 or 24 at the time. And then of course I started to develop more interest in doing that. And then I realized, similar to what you shared, how challenged society was with a lot of these things. And one of the things that I had passed around was nutrition. So I got into the nutrition coaching side of
Right.
things. That was around 2018, and I did that till about 2020 to 2021. But the pattern I noticed the most was that nutrition stuff. Yes, like I said, it is wildly important, but it's just
Yes.
one piece to the puzzle.
Right.
But
Just another bucket.
underneath the nutrition, the sleep, the physical health, the how you showed up at work, how you showed up in your relationship, all had to do with the conditioning and the patterns that you brought in that you developed from most likely decades worth of unconscious stuff that you were doing. Which is really what led me into the mindset and understanding that if and when individuals, specifically men that I work with, are able to understand those patterns, understand their conditioning, rewire that to a degree, they literally set themselves up for a brand new trajectory, and it no longer is a ceiling. It's really like possibilities are endless at that point. So that was long, and
Right.
there's some other key points of course in that journey, but those are just some of the key moments where really got me interested,
Right.
and then really expanded beyond that, through my corporate world, like working in the corporate world and whatnot.
Right, right. And
Hmm,
we're obviously talking about mindset, the your choices. We're going to talk about language today. So guys,
hmm.
buckle up. It's coming. But knowing versus doing. There's a
Hmm.
big problem, right? I think you and I are
Sure.
both are facilitators of getting people past knowing or being aware on some level, whether they're barely aware to they're a lot aware, problem aware,
Hmm.
to actually doing something about it. And for
Hmm.
you, how does mindset, habits, and all these things we're talking about get us moving from knowing what to do, but actually doing it?
Well, let's just think about what the data and the stats show. It says 95% of who we are and how we operate is based our subconscious mind. It's just like you just do it automatically. So we have to work to build our mindset, which our mindset is the stories our tell ourselves that derive, build our reticular activating system. We want to have confirmation bias of what we know to do, we're going to keep doing. And then you have 5% of your conscious mind. Think of the willpower. okay, willpower will get you here, but think of an army of 5 going against an army of 95. Willpower will only get you so far, but when
Right.
life starts lifing and you know what hits the fan, then guess
Yep.
what? You're going to revert back to what your defaults are. And if your defaults are and your mindset is I'm going to gain weight when I'm on 4th of July, then guess what
Yep.
you're going to do? You're going to do that.
Yep.
Versus there's a possibility I can gain weight on 4th of July, but there's also options for me to maintain my weight. Now, I don't have to lose weight, but the fact when I can have that really drilled in and truly believe it from a subconscious level from my mindset and the stories that I've told myself, doesn't matter what goes on outside of there. If it's a perfect setting and environment, great, it makes it that much easier. When it's challenging, but I still revert back to what is my truth, it's still you're still doing it no matter what. It's not, and that's where I see so many talk a lot of people, and they're like, "Well, I know, I just need to slow down, or I should just meditate more." But the reason they do not is because they've told themselves along the way, for some reason, meditation doesn't work for me, or that's woo woo,
Right.
or it doesn't, it takes too long, or whatever their story is. And every time they do that, they block themselves from being able to do what they know they could be doing.
Right.
And you could put
Just
it in
like with eating.
nutrition. Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody knows not to eat McDonald's 7 days a week.
But it's
Some
more
people still do it.
convenient than cooking. So then
Right.
they are blocked that they can actually make food at home,
Hmm.
actually be more convenient, cost less, and be obviously more impactful on positive health.
Sure.
But because they're blocked and McDonald's is
Hmm.
everywhere, then it's you go to the
So,
Golden
so,
Arches.
so that's where the reverse engineering comes in. Is we can give all people all the empowerment and all the hoorah that we want. But the truth is, until the subconscious program, those things underlying, it's our mindset, the stories we've told ourselves time over time that have become beliefs and patterns, until those change, it makes it very difficult for people to actually make a true sustainable change. Not just, hey, I went on a yo yo diet for 3 weeks and now I'm back to eating what I used to be.
Right.
It's no, I'm actually living a lifestyle that would require you to truly change. And so that's why I feel mindset if is the most important, if not the important piece to any true transformation, physical health, how you show up at work, how you show up in your relationship, any of those components, because it is truly driving everything you do when you're not thinking about it.
Yeah. Very much so. And how do
Absolutely.
you actually get your guys to start to think differently with
Hmm.
language, with words and all? Even the abracadabra. You brought
Sure.
that up in our call just before we got on here, and I was
Hmm.
like, yeah, we're definitely going to leverage that
Yeah.
word because it's fun and it's different
Sure.
and yeah, it's big, it's powerful.
Yeah, I think the first thing is, and this goes through some of the training that I've had, and we think about different processing speeds. And we've all been there, me too. I've been there before. When we're thinking about something and then overthinking about it, it's going a million miles an hour and there's no end in sight. It can go on forever because it's all up here.
Right.
When I start to talk with Brian about it, I naturally I have to slow it down in order for me to articulate the words.
Right.
So that's great. And that's what a lot of talk therapy is. Okay, great. I can get it out, which is still great because up here, whoo, we know it can be a real madhouse up
It's
there sometimes.
swirling around.
And and I always say, just because I coach on this thing doesn't mean that I don't also feel
Yeah.
challenged to this.
Guilty
I
is
just
guilty here too.
yeah, and but we're all working on it. We're all on
Yeah,
our
we're
own journey. So
human.
we're human, exactly. So that's, you got the first level of processing, thinking about it, second level, verbalizing it. But the third thing to really, really get someone to slow down, and this is the same with a lot of the things, is to get into the body. And how do we do that? Write it down. Right. And so when
Yes.
just like the gentleman who said, we'll use it, Joe, for example. Joe, we're not
Yep.
picking on you. You're just a really great example right now. And that is, if I go on,
Thanks for listening, Jen Joe, too.
yeah, if I go
You're the
on 4th of
reason why
July
I'm here.
vacation, he writes that down. If I go on 4th of July vacation, I will gain weight.
Right.
Right. So read that back. And when someone says that and reads that back, automatically there's going to be an emotional state as a result of that.
Right.
I'm guessing for someone who consciously wants to lose weight to read that, it's a little diminishing. And,
Right.
and
Real
that,
quick, we're
yeah,
on video too here, but if you didn't see video, he shrunk. He
yeah,
dropped when he said that, and that's exactly the way you feel. So the
Mhm.
way you think and the words you use and the body language that you have, this all ties into a lot of subconscious activity that's happening that is sharing to the universe what it's really like going on into your head.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to throw that out because I
Yeah,
saw
yeah.
it, and obviously Pat's highly skilled at this, but he was even embodying that type of feeling, and he shrunk, and that's something that is just noticed, and it does
Mhm.
happen.
Yeah. And then that plays out, because if that's the body language or that's the emotional state that I feel, I'm already depleted. Like, who cares what I even do on 4th of
Right,
July weekend? It's going to happen. It's inevitable. Then I go
right.
there, it happens. I prove to myself that same thing. Then I come back Monday morning and I'm
I'm right.
upset. And now and your body wants to be right. It loves that feeling, but also it's so often we choose the what we consider the familiar hell over the unfamiliar heaven. And so it's, oh well, I was
Yes.
right. I told yes, good. But now I'm
Right,
still upset about it. And so there
right,
it becomes challenging. And that's the cycle that goes on. So if we can learn that is, when you write down those patterns, we can actually see it from like an observer standpoint. It's, oh my gosh, I keep saying these things. And the more I say
right,
them, the more I burn them into my brain to look out for more opportunities to reaffirm that through the reticular activating system. And now that becomes my reality, becomes who I am. And so when we
right.
can get guys to slow down and just write some of these things that they're shared out, it's the same thing. You can go in and anybody could do this. I'm not sure if we're getting to that point here yet, but this could be a
Yeah,
simple
we're in a little
exercise.
bit. W-
But we're writing things down, and that allows at least for people to process it in a way that is different than just thinking about it, because the thinking part is just a mental exercise, but it's not actually doing anything about it. So when we think about from knowing, yeah, I know I shouldn't pay attention or shouldn't do that, to doing, and I actually take some action toward it, it starts to get the mind and the body in motion, which is where we really want to get into, because when those two things are in unison, we are very powerful in that way.
Right, very much. Now, you obviously know and work with a lot of the type of guy who listens in to the show.
Hmm.
And I'm curious if you can call them out right now. What are some of the words that they might use on a regular basis that is causing them to stay trapped in these behavior patterns,
Hmm.
and the body, the energy,
Yeah.
the job, the relationship, the self-loathing that they see in the mirror every morning when they wake up.
Yeah. So there's going to be four main components around the language patterns, and again, we just gave an example with Joe. One is what we would say language that is either going to tear you down or build you up. So
Yep.
conflict or architect language. Conflict, conflicting, architect. Okay, this is empowering. This is allowing for me to explore new possibilities. But the four main categories, first one are negations, soft talk, dramatics, and projection. So negations. Can't do that. Don't, won't, can't. Those are the words. Every time I tell
Yeah.
myself, I can't seem to start
There's a big
eating,
button there
right?
somewhere, right?
Yeah, can't. And my mind focuses on, oh,
Right.
yeah, Pat says he can't. And then sure enough, he goes to the snack cupboard at 10 p.m. at night. And then I reaffirm it. And
Can't
now that
control
becomes who
himself.
I am. Can't, right?
Right.
Negations. Can't, don't, won't, shouldn't. Those are ones. Soft
Right.
talk. This is one of the easiest to spot. And has a lot to do with individuals' conviction and confidence and their demeanor to actually change, right? Hey Brian, how you doing today? Good. What's your plans for the week? I might try and go get a workout or two in sometime this week. Now
Right.
imagine if you went up to let's say we're
Right.
you're in dating and you're going to go
Yeah,
up to someone,
right.
ask them for a date. Hey, I was kind of thinking that someday we should go out and try and get a drink or something sometime. What do you think? It's like, I don't know where the
Yeah.
question is, but you move those
Right. What did
language
you
and you create
was that a question? Did you ask something? I'm not sure. You're just kind of rambling there.
that soft talk creates so much ambiguity, and it also gives ourselves an internal out.
Right.
Well, if I say I'm going to try and go do it, but then I don't do it, then it's no big deal because I said I would try. But when the conflict
Right.
goes, because it's still right. Oh, I was right. I said I would try, but I didn't get to it. No problem. But no, I'm going to go to the gym today at 3 p.m. before I go pick up my kids from school. And then I don't do it. right? That can be more reinforcing, but that conviction language is huge. So you have the negations, you have the soft talk, which is the try, kinda, should, hopefully, potentially, I'll think about it, guess, maybe, all those words that are just filler words because there's uncertainty for you to be able to follow through.
Right.
Then we think about one of the other ones. I don't know which order I had them, but the other ones would be dramatics or just absolutes, right? I'll never be able to do blank. This always happens to me. And right away, just by doing that, we limit ourselves to that's the only thing that's possible, right? I'll never be able to lose all this weight. Well, the Henry Ford quote, whether you say you can or whether you say you can't, both are right. So if I'll never be able to do this, you're right. But when I change change those word patterns, it's not that I'll never be able to do it. There's a possibility I can do this. If you just read those out loud of I'll never be able to lose the weight versus there's a
Right.
possibility to lose the weight, tonality changes, body language changes, emotional state changes. That is what allows for us to feel more comfortable to take those next steps. So the dramatics and or absolutes, the nevers, the always, the everyone, everything, every time. Really? Every
Yes.
time?
Right.
Every
Yeah.
time that
Every
happens?
time. Yeah.
Can you show me all in history that that's happened every single time? And again, it's not being rude to anyone in that way. It's just getting them to see it from a different perspective, right? Change the mindset. And then
Right.
the last one is projections. Man, I'm really trying to eat better, but yeah, my wife keeps making me all this food, and she keeps, making me fat because I'm eating all this food.
Yes.
She keeps making you eat all the food, or you keep making you. So the
Yep.
she, the he, the they, the them, the it. Anytime we're pointing outward projections, we're living in a victim mentality. We have choice all day long, whether we want to believe it or not. I had a group last week. We were doing an in-person training at a company, and they said, "No, I don't have any choice. My boss, everything they say, I have to do." Said, "You have to do."
Yep.
Who got up and drove you to work today? Well, I have to do it
Yeah.
for my family. Okay, but that's still a choice.
Yeah.
That
Yes. You
just
always have
blatantly,
choices.
there's always a choice. Not to
It's
say
always a
one is
choice.
better or worse for the other, but again,
Right.
it's that same point when we use he, she, they, them. She made me feel this way. Did she, or you allowed for her to make you feel that way? But it's all ownership. It's all confidence. It's all allowing for you to feel strong in who you are. And so when I switch it out with she made me feel this way with I made me feel this way. A lot of times it's in someone's face and it can feel uncomfortable and confronting. But the truth is, oh wow, I have ownership and agency to determine how I think and feel despite what's going on in my external world. Now the analogy I like to often use is I am no longer giving life the strings to play me like a puppet. And now I'm
Right.
back to playing the puppet, right? Because when I say if we let everything external to us dictate how we think and feel, we might as well give over the reins to our entire life. And no wonder people live on an emotional roller coaster.
Right.
And so those are the patterns, right? You have the soft talk, the negations, the dramatics, and the projections. And when those start to just get switched out, just as low hanging fruit that we do every single day. And Brian, what I tell so many people is a lot of the work that I share, it's free. It costs you nothing. All it costs you is a little bit more time. And I even argue that because you're already talking all day. You're emailing, you're texting. You just have to switch out one word and notice how it
Yes.
changes. And if you did that, just like reps in the gym, as we know, you don't go and hit bench and get jacked all in one day.
Right.
Over time, you do the little things, the little mental reps, if you will. It will start to change. It's neuroplasticity. It's training the reticular activating system to train the brain on in the way it sees things, in the way that you see yourself, the way you hear yourself, the way you carry yourself. And that shows up in how you get to the gym, in how you show up with your significant others or your family, at your job, and so much more. And so, those are just four components that are just low hanging fruit that if and when you actually get brutally honest with yourself and notice them and then change them, you will start to see changes, of course, with consistency and of course patience, just like anything when transformation comes to.
Right. Patience. And that's something that we are constantly being trained against now
Mm-hmm.
with life moving so fast and instant
Sure.
reply. And you even brought it earlier up in the beginning was delayed gratification. That is patience. That is doing the work now to foster the results
Mhm.
later. And that's what we were, human race was, you planted a seed now that would grow into a plant that you could eat later. And
Yep.
that's just how we have lived. But with convenience and all
Mhm.
this technology, it's, we're wildly different.
That's true.
Real
Absolutely.
quick on that, I'm just curious, and then we'll move into the actual language
Yeah.
experiment that we wanted to do together. But how are you seeing technology play into guys and their thought patterns, or these four different buckets that they end up
Mhm.
different, not the best pattern of behavior or language or words?
Mhm. Well, there's a couple things. First and foremost, you have social media, so let's just call that one out.
Yeah.
I believe that actually it makes it more challenging for people because they see other people there, and then they reaffirm again, I'll
Right.
never get to that point, and they see all these people that are there, but what they don't see from that screen, and I shared this post the other day, yesterday actually, I shared a post, one of my first Instagram posts, how
Oh yeah.
cringe, as they say, it was. But guess what? What they see now, what where I'm at today, same with you, Ryan, was an
Right.
accumulation of time, energy, effort over years.
Yep.
And so it gets misconstrued. And right away, I continue to build a case for why I'll never get to be that way. Because Brian's already here and here I am way over here. But the truth
Right.
is, Brian used to be over there.
Yeah,
It
we all
just took
did.
him time. Yeah, same. And
Nobody
so
was on
that
social media at one point in their life.
right, right. And so I think that's one thing that's definitely challenging. The other is, I've heard a couple people where I'll go into talk to Chat GPT as my coach.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
understandable. However, Chat GPT cannot feel the emotion that you feel when I come into a call, and I can notice when my client is extremely tense. And if they're
Right.
extremely tense, then guess what ends up happening? They're not going to be receptive to the information that I'm sharing
Right.
or being willing to change. So I can be that person to downregulate them and then be able to have a conducive situation. But so many guys leaning to technology, which again to me is just another form of active avoidance because they're not really facing it. They're just looking for a quick fix, which again, it's
Right.
the band-aid situation. It's a
Right.
quick fix. It's basically you're looking for an external solution or a quick fix to something that's been going on for a really long time. Right. It's kind of like someone
Right.
who gained weight and is 600 pounds overweight. It doesn't happen overnight. And it's not going to happen with a magic pill. And if it does,
Always.
the likelihood of them going back is high because they
Yep.
didn't actually learn the underlying foundation or change
Yep.
anything true from the underneath the surface.
Episode 121 of the
I'm gonna have to
podcast, I
listen to
did
that
the
one.
GLP-1s, the
Hmm.
good, the bad, the ugly. And there are some bad and ugly stories and stats
Sure.
of people almost guaranteed that they would be gaining the way back, and it almost defaults back to any other diet type
Yep.
situation where they didn't change the behaviors or the language or how they see themselves, their
Hmm.
identity as a person, and it reverted back to their older selves. Maybe not
Hmm.
immediately, but over time. And with say GLP-1s or the pill or whatever, any of this,
Yeah.
it's still too new. We Let's
Sure.
play this out 5 years and we'll start seeing the ramifications of what a GLP-1 introduced into someone's life did to them. Hopefully for
Yeah.
the better, and it was the necessary, kick in the butt that helped
Sure.
get them past that sticking point and moving. But so yeah, that is
Well,
something there.
that the GLP-1s are new, but I'll tell you what hasn't been new and that has shown that same similar statistics on being able to get something and then revert right back. Think about the lottery. Think about the
Lottery,
professional
yeah,
sports players that weren't emotionally or mentally ready for the amount of money they were going to get and they got it
yeah,
and now they went right back or worse. Same thing with the
yeah,
lottery. People win a bunch of money, you're like, "Oh, they're set for life, guy."
yeah. They should be.
No, 2 weeks later, but because they weren't there, they weren't there to meet what was actually going on externally. They can't hold that capacity. They didn't see themselves as
Right,
that person. They even unbeknownst to them, they blew all that money just to feel like they wanted to be poor again. Like, and I'm not. That's
right,
a very extreme example,
right.
but that is
Because
what ends up
it's yeah,
happening. You don't know any different.
right,
And I think that can happen in any realm, in any sort of transformation. That's why, to me, when we can actually work from a a deeper level, just a few extra layers underneath the surface, that's when the true transformation happens. Otherwise, we do end up going back and reverting back. And I've been there
Right.
before, so I know what that's like as
Yeah.
well.
Me too.
Yeah.
So let's give the guys
Sure.
an exercise
Yeah.
now. Pat's going to lead us through something that you should push pause
Hmm.
and be able to write. So what do we need for this? And give them a quick overview of what we're going to
Yep.
do so that they can prepare. And this is cool because sometimes this has been a lot of information, but
Hmm.
you're like, yeah, let's do an actual implementation strategy
Hmm.
on. I was like, yes, let's do that. So
Yeah.
be
Heck
ready
yeah.
to push pause and push play again.
Yeah, so one of the things I love doing is playing mindset games, and I did this at an actual event that we were at a couple weeks ago as a wellness event, and I said, how do I get people to experience this? And really, it is getting people to experience it. It's one thing to hear it on a
Right.
podcast, great, but we want implementation. And like, you're
Always.
not going to read the nutrition plan but not eat any of the food, right? Well, that's not the point. So all you need is either pen or paper, your phone, if you want to use the Notes app, whether you got Droid, iPhone, whatever it is, or a Google Doc, or wherever you can write something down.
Right.
So that's all you need. It's going to be very simple. We're going to just go through three different stages, if you will, of this mindset game. And the first one is, and this is for you to be as brutally honest with yourself about something you may be challenged with, because to the degree you're willing to be vulnerable with yourself is to the degree that you will grow. And so I want you just to write down, after I share with you this, you're going to write down the whole sentence stem plus your portion, but you're going to want to start it with, I have a problem with. So you're going to write that full segment. I have a problem with, and then you're going to fill in the blank. Whatever you're challenged with, right? No judgment here. We all have challenges. We all have struggles. Cool. Write that one down. So you're going to write that full sentence down. I have a problem with blank. You fill in the blank, personalized to your situation. So as Brian said, you can pause this to catch up, and you can use this as more of an exercise and activity. Once you've written that down, then I'll encourage you to read that out loud. So if someone filled in and said, I have a problem with being able to lose these last 20 pounds that I've been trying to lose for 20 years or whatever the case is,
I
right?
have a
Read that out.
problem with not gaining weight when I leave my house for a 4th of July party, Joe.
Exactly. So you share that, right? I have that problem. Then I want you to read it out loud, and I want you just to sit with it for a moment. And
I'll share mine. I'll do
yeah,
this
yeah,
too.
yeah.
So I have a problem with keeping up with the demands of life. I say this and have thought it and share with close friends. I even shared it on the podcast. I think episode 59.
Hmm.
I had another coach me, and an executive coach is really good. But Brian can't keep up with Brian.
Hmm.
So Brian has this identity. He's a mover, a shaker. He does lots of things. He does
Hmm.
them very well. That's the identity piece that I have for myself. So I have a strong
Sure.
identity around that. I'm confident and I have energy and all that stuff. But the real life responsibilities that weigh on me, from being a husband, being a father of four, having 4 cats and a dog. Thank you, COVID, emotional support pets,
Hmm.
keeping up with the bills, keeping up with all the things that demand the business, and then even myself ends up falling to the wayside
Hmm.
in a sense. Now I still do the things I need to do. I eat good.
Hmm.
I do all that stuff. That ends up just, that's by default. I don't have problems with that. But some of the other challenges
Sure.
of actual life, of business and stuff, those are ends up being some of the things that I definitely am struggling
For
to keep
sure.
up with.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that. Well, let's do this and let's play full out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have you restate that for a moment, just like you shared it. And if you
All
have a
right.
chance to write down, even better, but you don't have to. But I want you just to kind of write that down, right? I have a problem with keeping up with life's
Yep.
demands. And once you do that, once it's written, I encourage you just to read just that statement. That's all I need from you.
Yep.
And listeners at home, that's gonna be your next step as well.
Yeah, read it out. So I have a problem with keeping up with the demands of life.
Yeah. And if you were to name the first emotion that comes up as you read that out loud, what would that be?
Frustration.
Frustration. All right. Thanks. Appreciate everybody. Applaud Brian for being vulnerable. Thank you for this.
Yeah.
That's the same question that you're going to want to ask yourself after you've read it. Okay. What is the emotion that I'm feeling? Okay. and there's no right, wrong, indifferent. Now I want you to take that that same sentence and I want you to write it, but with one change in there, and that is, I have an opportunity with blank, and then fill in what you had already wrote as the blank. So it's you're basically rechanging and resituating this. And once you're
Yeah.
done, then you're going to read that one fully out loud, just the sentence.
I have an opportunity with keeping up with the demands of life.
Nice. And what's the first energy or vibration or emotion that you feel reading that one out loud?
The first word that came to mind is relief.
Relief. Interesting. Okay. Sweet. And so, listeners at home, same thing. You're going to write that out. I have a problem, or sorry, I have an opportunity with same thing you wrote above, asking yourself, what is the first emotion that comes up? Okay. We're going to take it one step further, and I want you to put in the word golden in front of opportunity. I have a golden opportunity with blank. Listeners at home, same thing. I have a golden opportunity with blank, whatever that original statement was. And when you have that
I
written down, read that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a golden opportunity with keeping up with the demands of life.
And how's that one?
I feel a lot more confident and
Got it.
energized. Like, okay, yeah, there are opportunities for me to be able to manage all the things, all the plates that I'm spinning.
Yeah. And so, one, thanks for playing all out. This is, if anything, this is going to be super useful for the user or the listeners to hear this, because what we just realized is by just changing two, three words, went from frustration to relieved to confident.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we think about wanting to make any true change in our life, any health change or anything like that, if I'm coming at it already frustrated, what's the likelihood of me actually wanting to go to the gym?
Yeah. You can't find
Eh.
those opportunities in your head. It's always say doom and gloom or glass half full
And you
type.
may willpower your way through that some of that frustration, but at the end of the day, if the frustration never changed and then life gets in the way, if I'm feeling frustrated about it, I'm most likely not going to follow through. If I
Yep.
feel a little relieved, ah, you could even notice in Brian's tonality and change, there was a little bit more optimism and also curiosity of, okay, there are opportunities. What would that be like? And that is the other thing that I really want to share is, and this happens a lot with, in my work with Joe Dispenza, is in my time working as a corporate trainer with Joe Dispenza, we talk about the different brainwave
Joe's
states that
great.
we're in. Okay. Frustration is just a emotion derived from the hormone of stress. So frustration, anger, guilt, sadness, hopelessness, resentment, all of those are just emotions under the umbrella of stress. And when I feel stress all the time, right, we're inevitably we're going to feel stress, but living in stress is something different. The heart, right, our heart rhythm mirrors what goes on in the brain and vice versa. So as I feel frustrated, I send my mind into what's considered high beta brainwave patterns. And in high beta brainwaves, I can't comprehend any new information to come in. I'm living in fight or flight, which if you're running around being chased by a lion all day, is it a really time for you to feel safe enough to go do something different, like go to the gym or change some
No.
comfortable eating pattern that you've had? No, it goes away. But when I drop just through words from frustration to relief to confident, my heart starts to slow down.
Hmm.
And when my mind starts to slow down, I move into low beta brainwaves, which I hope everyone is in right now, where you're
Hmm.
more receptive to information.
Right.
You can take new information in. You're willing to test out a couple new things, like,
Right.
try out one of the things that Brian said on the meal plan or the workout or
Right.
whatever the case is. But in this state, high beta brainwave patterns, which is just simply feeling frustrated or feeling in stress and living there, which most likely is going to be determined by the language you use, it is a very, very tough like guard to break down. But we know just from this exercise, we can drop that guard down. And when that
Right.
drop that guard down, we allow for really change to happen. And that's the same thing that goes for people who are dealing with chronic health issues. A lot of times it's just stress has been so
Compounded.
overloaded. But the
Right.
moment they just let things go, sometimes just emotionally letting them go, they magically begin to heal. Didn't
Right.
magic, you just changed your internal state. And
Right.
so I loved that exercise because it just goes to show we can change our internal state in the matter of just a couple different words. And
Right.
it can sound as just like this. Man, I keep having a problem with doing it. Hold on. You can just catch yourself and say, cross out problem, opportunity. I actually have an
Yep.
opportunity with that.
Right.
Now, now my brain switches to seeing possibilities instead of limitations. And so we think
Right.
of a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, right? It's the language that limits ourselves or the language patterns that actually allow for us to open our eyes to what is actually possible. So
Right.
appreciate you playing all out for
Yeah,
that. That's,
definitely.
it's
And
just
even
some, and there's other ones too, but those are, just one of the more, just basic beginner learning level ones that are really fun to play with groups
yeah,
and whatnot.
definitely. And even thinking through that for myself, all right, Brian has a hard time keeping up with Brian. There's just literally a large amount of people that I'm responsible for, both in my home and then as doing client work. There
Yep.
is some responsibility of this person is trusting you to help to deliver the outcome that you promised that you would help
Hmm.
them with. So there's always that happening. You want to do your best for the
Sure.
people that work with you, and I do. I do a really good job there. But the we go from this frustration point to I'm aware enough to throw in some pattern routes to not
Yep.
let it just toss me into the wind
Sure.
in a sense like, all right, let's pull my head out of the sand. Let's look around for what the opportunities are. I have a
Hmm.
business coach. I've had multiple business coaches. I'm trying different strategies. I have an email list. I have a podcast. I can outreach to gentlemen like Pat and have them onto my podcast to create
Hmm.
more really useful content for people to gain value from. There's so many different opportunities, or even just hiring an employee or a VA or any of that stuff to help to offload some of my personal responsibilities that I probably should be delegating off to someone anyways. And all of a sudden now I'm free to have more opportunity to
Hmm.
do more of the things that can keep up with this strong identity of myself. So there's lots of opportunities that I can, and the difference between frustration and confidence can help me to take action, definitive action. I'm going
Exactly.
to do this by then to make sure that I can get the results. So in any of the work I do, I want to share with Joe because literally I was messaging with today, and maybe that's why I brought him up. But we were going back and forth on our app, and he said he's so close to hitting 209, and it's been a big goal for him to get under 210. So he's been losing weight, and he wanted to do it before the trip. So he had a definitive goal, a deadline, and a timeline, and he's been staying held accountable because I got a lot of pictures of his food and stuff here. Let me show you a picture of his food, what he ate the other day. So this was some of a salad and stuff that he had as part of his meal. And he's reporting in on that. He says, I'm going to try to take your advice and not weigh myself until I've been back a few days. Why? Because most people end up doing exactly that. They race home and want to step on the scale that night when they got home. It's like the worst idea
Hmm.
ever. Or even the next day. Why? And so I have this simple, what I call the get back on rule. However many days you're off is however many days it takes to get back on. So consequently, if
I
you're
like that.
off for a week or a sloppy weekend or the 4th of July here, Saturday and Sunday are a little too much fun. Well, let's not step on the scale till Wednesday or even Thursday to assess where we were on Saturday. And you might be like, oh, that's a long time. Yeah. Well, then make better choices in those 2 days. Exactly what
Hmm.
we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So he said, oh, yeah, I totally remember that from one of your podcasts. 2 days off on the weekend is 2 days back on track. So 4 out of 7 days of not making progress. Yeah, it's not necessarily going to do well for you, right?
Hmm.
Basic math says that's a failing grade. So, and then what he says, then I told him, do not step on the scale for a good week after. You don't need to track food or anything like that. He also referenced stepping on the scale at his mom's house. And he's like, my mom's got a scale back at home. It's like, no, I literally told him he's not allowed to do it. I said, you're not allowed to step on the scale while you're there. This is the time to do a real test for yourself. You're going to go there consciously and practice good food behaviors and then have at least 4 or 5 days on the back end before you step on the scale. He's like, oh man, I'm scared. I'll be flying blind. I will try to do it though. And I said, you're
Mm-hmm.
not flying blind. You've been practicing for weeks. You've been losing weight for weeks now and doing the things, these behavior changes that we're trying to change. So catch him in his
Mm-hmm.
soft talk right there, right?
Yeah.
I will try to do that though.
Mm-hmm.
And then your what it says, I said, I'm here to help. However, just knowing that I'm here in and of itself will help you make better choices. So having that proximity to
Yeah.
having going from I'm really worried or scared to he's even going through that transformation in
Mm-hmm.
that just this exchange this morning over a course of 2 to 4 minutes of going back and forth. Like, okay, I accept the challenge. I will go there, have a good time. Weight maintenance is the goal for an 8 day trip, and that will make him wildly successful. And sometimes, like, oh, that's not losing weight. Like, well, if you gain 5 pounds every time you leave your house, for a week vacation, then that's a huge win. You are
Mm-hmm.
doing way better than you have in the past. So I just wanted
Sure.
to bring Joe
Yeah, I
back
like
into
it.
this conversation, man. He's really going to love this. When I was like, hey, Joe, your ears must have been fire
Yeah.
on Friday because we were chatting about you. And I know you
Yeah.
can do it, man. I know you can do it.
Yeah. And like you said, it's he's trained in that way, and the other like because he's done it enough times. And
Yes.
oftentimes if I just switch out from I'm scared to okay, it can be challenging and I know I have proof to do it.
Yes.
That's all the state shift that needs to happen in order for it to follow through. So I like that a lot.
Right.
And you can I always ask tell my clients respectfully, I'm going to call you out on that. I'm going to try and go. I say, are you going to do it or not? And that's if you tell me no, you're not, then I
That's
respect
okay.
that more than you
Yeah.
telling me I'm going to try and then it never happens. So
Right.
I think that's one thing that's it's just fun to play with a little bit.
Yeah. Very much so.
And it's training. You talked about it for yourself of like kind of the reframe or training your mind to get back into that coherent state so I can see those opportunities. And
Right.
I think that's a lot of what when you think about people doing meditation and thinking it's woo woo, but really it's just
Right.
trains your focus. I think more
Yes.
than anything, it just trains your focus because the truth of the matter is, if you sit down and you close your eyes and your mind's going a million miles an hour and you're thinking about all the things that you have to do, then your life has you by its horns. If you can
Yes.
train, it takes time and it is by no measure easy. But if you can train for those things to come up and to just let them be to the side, you are putting yourself back in the driver's seat of your life. And that to me is the level of focus that is required when you're wanting to have some of these massive changes. It's like I'm going to this place again, or I'm overthinking about what I need to eat. When in reality, if I'm like, hold on, instead of doing that, I'm just going to put it down here. I'm going to come back to my center, know what's true to me, let
Yeah.
my body do what it knows it can do, and over time you build that level of focus. And I think that is one of the biggest things that we're missing. You talked about technology earlier that people are
Yeah.
missing out is their ability to
Yeah.
focus and
They
to
don't put the
stay.
phone down, they pick it up and start scrolling, get lost
Mhm,
in, the 10 second. I keep telling my kids, I'm basically yelling at them, "Do not live your life 10 seconds at a time," because they're just and it's, what are you doing? Can't
mhm,
even recall what you did the last X amount of time, and that's what people are doing. They're not
mhm,
slowing down, and that's where you have this opportunity to have self-reflection and become resourceful to be able to then create the answers that you need for whatever the challenge or the problem that you
mhm.
are facing in that moment. And that's what Pat and I are talking about is
Sure.
slow the F down, people.
Mhm.
Like take a breath. And meditation can be 1,000 different things. It could
Yep.
be what most people are thinking of, just sitting in silence and trying not to think of anything. It can be
Yeah.
thinking of something singular. It can be, I love this one thing that I remember from when I was in group exercise classes back in 2002.
Mhm.
My the guy who hired me on at the YMCA, his name was Carson. He was a yogi. He taught yoga classes, and
Okay.
then occasionally he said, "Brian, I can't make this class. I need you to teach it." And I was going in and practicing with them, so I had started to acquire the skills of going taking people through
Mhm.
yoga. And one of the meditations that we did at the end of it, in shavasana, which is dead man's
Mhm.
pose or corpse, you just lay there, and the guided meditation was you poured warm water in from your toes, and then
Mm.
you went up one body part at a time. And so I would be telling them just like, okay, we're taking deep breaths in. And so it's all that type of
Yeah.
general typical meditation stuff. But I want you to feel the warmth in your tip of your toes starting to fill up into those early knuckle points. And then now the water's into your heel, and
Mhm.
then it moves up into your knee. And it's just creating this warmth there. And you tell the story, and you get the people to stop and only think about whatever it is that you're saying. And you literally, by the time you work your body, filling it up with with warm water all the way up to your eyeballs, in a sense, you forgot that you even have feet, because
Mhm.
you're so relaxed, so checked out, and just in this focused state of mind that
Mhm.
it brings inner peace, drops the stress, the cortisol, and allows you to be able to just feel refreshed
Mhm.
leaving that place. So, what are some other ways of meditation that you've found and offered up to guys that weren't just sit in silence, or
Yeah.
maybe do the Calm app or something, or
Yeah, I mean,
Headspace app?
the Calm app is great. I mean, when I first started, I used the Insight Timer. It's a free app as well. But I want to just point out, it can be sitting in silence. It can be a guided meditation. It can be a body scan, similar to what you just shared, of like giving yourself presence to from your head to your toes. It could be just 3 minutes of you consciously breathing 5 seconds in your nose and 5 seconds out your nose,
Yeah, the breath
which would be
box.
yeah, yeah, you can all, and there's so many of those, right?
Uh,
So many
oh
different breathing
yeah,
exercises.
yeah.
But to all that to be
Yep.
said, the training, what we're teaching, like I went back to that, that feeling of frustration you talked about earlier, which then elevates the mind to speed up really fast. When we do meditation, just like you said, people forgot where their feet are. Not only did they definitely forgot about their problems, but they also forgot
Yes.
about their feet. But what that if we actually were able to measure that, their heartbeat was so slowed down and their
Yeah.
brain waves, their thinking, their mind was so calm that they could think so clearly. They could make the best conscious decisions. And so when we do meditation, we are training our ability to regulate ourselves. So to your point, yes, they felt good after that moment, but now they're giving the body a taste of what it's like when they feel stress outside of that meditation, to know over time I can bring myself back down. And then when I enter into that situation, I can actually make the best possible decision. And I'm not doing it out of frustration or fear or whatever the case is. So I feel that is one of the most valuable things, because people are so addicted to stress that meditation does the
Yeah.
opposite. Because
Right.
we talked about addiction.
Yep.
Stress is just a chemical. It's just
Yep.
cortisol, and if we do it enough, we have enough of it in our lives, we constantly chase it. We become addicted to it. We'll be in the bad relationship just to get some excitement out of it, even though
Yeah.
that's not what we
There's
like.
dopamine one way or another,
Yep.
positive or negative.
And the only way to start to train the opposite, you conditioned yourself to be okay with that. So meditation is conditioning yourself to be okay with the relaxation, to be with what we would consider coherence, which is just heart and brain in same unison, in flow. We're in a really good spot. So you can do that through getting on the Calm app. You can get on Insight Timer. If you reach out to me, I've got some meditations on my men's community on school platform. There's, breathing ones, there's body scan, there's walking meditations if you can't sit still. There's so many. So I just encourage, if anyone ever has shared that it doesn't work for them, or they've never tried, it doesn't seem like it would work, give it a true shot, right? A few
Right.
weeks, consistent, and really being honest, and also with that word we talked about earlier, patience. I'd be surprised if someone actually did it for 30 days straight. It's inevitable that I would see their life wouldn't change in some way, shape, or form.
Right. Agreed.
And that's anything though for 30 days.
Agreed. Yeah. And
So
if you focus on that specific thing
yeah.
with intention, it will change
Hmm.
something in your life in 30 days for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, this has been good. I am renewed and ready to go back
Heck
into
yeah.
the world here with some fresh refocus on remembering that yes, my life is very busy, but if you look at the patterns of behavior that Brian has done over a long amount of time, he takes care of himself in terms of his health. He eats healthy most of the time. He drinks lots of water. He gets the sleep is a big kryptonite for me. Is just challenging with so many people. My two ladies in my life, my wife and my daughter, they like to just stay up forever. And then my second son's been waking me up at 6:45 in the summer. I was like, dude, I could be sleeping till 8:39, man. So we got to get him to cross country practice or
Hmm.
whatever. Or my oldest is getting up at 5:15 to go swim. So it's like
Oh
this
yeah.
I'm
Whole
stuck in the
household.
middle here. I'm stuck in the middle, but this is excellent. Now, starting to wrap up, what's a message that you can tell the guys listening in that you can do this, we can make some really positive changes, things like that.
Yeah. I would just say that all of this stuff is in your wheelhouse to do. And like I said, it's all free. It doesn't take you any more time. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure it out. But if and when you're willing to change up some of these patterns, your mindset's going to change. And if your mind it's truly involved in every single thing you do. It even runs when you sleep because you're dreaming.
Hmm.
So if your mind is involved in everything you do and you want some parts of your life to change, then give yourself an opportunity because you're getting amazing free value from this podcast that Brian's put on, and I'm sure all the other episodes that don't just rely on the information, do the implementation. And even if it's one
Yep.
small, even if for a week all you do is you reduce the word using the word can't or shouldn't or
Right.
don't, and just notice and write it down. That's all the message there is. And just like
Yep.
anything, if you're consistent enough with over time, things can change in that way. And yeah, that would
Yep.
be my biggest message is, your words create your story is your life, and your life is oftentimes dictated by your mindset. So
Yep.
just like reverse engineering things, you want to get jacked? Okay, well, we got to start with the basics first. And that's what
Yep.
we're here to do with the same thing with the mindset.
Yep. This is excellent, Pat. So if you listening to Pat here, there's a lot of overlap in a really positive way. We do have to start with small things. We do have to build it over time. It's that James Clear Atomic Habits 1% better type approach.
Hmm.
And when we stack those, we get wins. And when we find time to slow down, then we can de stress and get into brain waves and physiology of our body to be able to then be more resourceful and take better action on those whatever directive it is that you need to be able to accomplish or to be able to start finding solutions that you need to overcome whatever problem that you have in your life, because life is a series of problems. You solve one thing, something else pops up, you got to figure that out. And that is just the journey that is life. And so that is so important. Pat, I want to thank you for jumping on here and sharing this and getting me to do a little exercise,
Yeah, absolutely.
and just
Appreciate you having
a
me.
good reminder that there's always opportunity. And that's something that I like to share with everyone as well.
Yeah,
All his stuff will be in the show notes, his school group, if you want to join that, and his Instagram and socials and such. So be able to check out there. And he's got a lot of other actionable things on his website as well. So leave it there for you to grab. All right.
great. Thanks so much.
Yeah. So thanks so much for coming on here. I appreciate you and looking forward to, just keep going. Thank you. Thank you.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye
Appreciate it.
bye.